This particular session started out purely, I was actually working with a piece of software. I was actually helping somebody else, and we ran into something really, really terrible. We had huge amount of errors that popped up. We were struggling with it, and eventually we found out what the problem was. And out of pure frustration, I tweeted saying, if I had a time machine, I would go in the past and stop this person who did this. And as soon as I said it, there was a flood of tweets back saying, well, if you're going to do that, here's a list of things I want you to go back and fix in the past. And as I was doing it, one of my good friends, Naresh Jain, said, well, you should really give a talk on this topic. So that's kind of where this started, just to kind of have fun. So you've had lunch, so hopefully we can just think back and reminisce on a few things and see what we could do a little differently. So if I had a time machine, but let's talk about what we do. We are special, right? We all know this already, right? We're all special. Now, what makes us really special? I'll tell you what makes us really special. We are special because we work with computers. Absolutely, isn't it? And we live in a field where you work with computers, and as a result, you can write your own code. You can fix your own problems. If you don't like something, you can go back and write it, right? But when you work with computers, there's also something else that happens. We're also perceived as being kind of weird. Does that happen to you? I was at my dentist the other day, and my dentist was asking me casually, what do you do? And I was having a nice chat. And my dentist said, what do you do? I said, I'm a programmer. And then there was a little pause, and then she said, what do you do again? I said, I'm a programmer. And she said, are you sure? I said, why not? She said, because you actually talk. And they think that programmers, are kind of weird people, right? And my wife always would come to me and say, why are you like this? And I would be sitting and coding, and she would be talking, and I wouldn't even hear anything, right? And then after a while, she would realize she's been talking, but I'm not listening. And this went on for a while, but I'll tell you the best money I ever paid was when I went to the movie, and I didn't know this was coming, went to the movie, The Social Network. So I'm sitting there and watching the movie with her. Right in the middle of the movie, she literally screams. She's like, I get it. And I'm like, what happened? She's like, I get it. I said, what did you get? You see that guy? And this was a scene where he's sitting and coding, and guys walk in and say, hey, you. And he says, no, don't talk to them. They're wired. And my wife said, I get it now. You're wired when you work. That was every cent worth it. And a few weeks later, I was home sitting and working away. One of my children came to me and said, Daddy, I have a question. And my wife said, don't talk to Daddy now, he's wired. So this is precious, right? So people look at us, and we work on computers. They think we are really weird. But we're special. And the reason we are special is we work with computers. And what does that really mean? It means everybody in the world thinks that we can fix their computer problems. Does it happen to you? You visit an old uncle. Uncle says, hey, you work with computers, right? Uh-huh. Well, come on over here, right? And the next thing you know, you got to fix their computers. You go to a dentist. I got a computer problem, right? You go to a store. Hey, you think you can fix our computers? So I quit telling anybody that I work with computers anymore, right? Because they think that you can fix their computers. Well, we know that that's true to a limited extent. And everybody thinks we are really cool because we can fix their computers. And I fly a lot. I sit in the airplanes, and the other day the pilot said, oh, you know what? We tried everything we can. The pressure system doesn't work. We finally decided to try one other thing. We decided to reboot the system. And I'm like, oh, can I get off the flight, please? Right? Because we know what it is painful, but the rest of the folks don't get it. But the reality is that we are the first victims of computers, right? We are the first victims. We have to work with this every single day, every minute, every hour, every moment. We have to struggle with it. So it got me thinking, how does it feel to have to work with these computers every single day? We all solve problems. We write code. We love programming. But also very frustrating, isn't it? It's a lot of frustration we have to go through. So it got me thinking, if we can go back in time, knowing what we know today, What would you do if you were able to go back in time? So I was working with a piece of code, and I ran into some real trouble, and that's when I tweeted this. And I said, if we ever figure out how to time travel, I will go back and stop the dude who put space in the directory name, program files. Have you ever been bitten by this? Yeah, we are all victims, right? You are writing this code, and suddenly it just doesn't work. And eventually you find out that the directory name it takes is called program and not program files. How frustrating that is. So many software out there is broken because of this, right? So the minute I tweeted this, my good friend Neil Ford replied back. He said, additionally, why even add files to program files? What else is going to be in that folder? Unicorns? Well, if you really think about it, right? Why would you call it program files after all? And the minute people figured out that I do have an option to go back in time, whether I can or not, they had a pile of stuff to send to me. And my good friend Andy Hunt immediately said, well, while you're back in time doing this, could you please make sure the person who changed the / to \, have you been bitten by that problem? How frustrating when you have to work with, like Java, for example, right? And you sit there and say, is it / or /? Your life is too short for that, isn't it? But I got some good news for you. And the good news is, in the latest version of Windows, there is not a program files. There is 2 of it. So this is from my machine. And I put everything in programs, and every time I go there, I curse. I'm not a person who normally curses, but computers make me angry. My wife says, you're such a nice man, except when you sit in front of a computer, right? And that's the way I am, right? Well, so people may look at me and say, do you really use Windows, Venkat? Well, I have to admit to you, I sometimes do. In fact, I was teaching a course a couple of weeks ago. I did not use one Windows, I used 2 of them, actually. They are wonderful. Powered off. So, what do you say, a conversation between 2 people, what do you call it? A dialogue, right? I'm having a dialogue with my friend. What if one person takes over and completely monopolizes that dialogue totally? What do you call that? No, it's not an argument. It's called modal dialogue. Does anybody like modal dialogues? Do you? So yesterday night, I was working with something, and bam, it was like modal dialogue. And it says, do this. I'm like, oh, you know what? I need some information. Where is it? It's right behind it. Can I move it, please? No, you cannot. Well, how do I do this? You got to click OK on this, right? Let me tell you this. If you don't like modal dialogues, please don't create one. Right? I mean, we have this power, right? We work in this field. If you have been hurt by this, you don't say, you know what? You guys created a product, it hurt me, I'm going to come back with vengeance and hurt you more, right? That's not the way you develop software. Quit doing modal dialogues. That's really horrible. So what about this? So here's an example. I've got a little sign-on page here. I'm going to say, you know, sample, for example, at example.com, and I'm going to say blah and hit. Well, I'm asking it to go to the site and sign in, and notice it says incorrect password. It did not leave the place. I can change my password and try again, for example. So we can start doing things without a lot of effort, and we can make the user experience a lot better. We don't have to really throw modal dialogues at people. So that is one thing we can do. And the worst offender of this is my little iPhone. I got about 10 email accounts. And the minute I click on the mail, I get very anxious. Because if I don't have internet connection, it'll pop up 10, if not 15 dialogues. Bam, 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 bam. It's like, right? I can't keep up with it. Really hard. So definitely we can start programming without it. Great. Well, the next question. What else can we think of really bad? If I were to go back in time, what would I actually fix? Who thinks this is a great idea? Is there anybody here who uses XML? Come on, be bold. Yeah, we do, right? Who loves using XML. Really? I always thought you were weird. So what about XML? Somebody thought this was a great idea, right? Oh, look, we could write this and humans can use it. You know what the English word for that is? Torture. That's the word for it, right? Russell Winder says, XML should be used only by consenting computers, never by humans. Even that too, not by computers, only consenting computers, right? They say, yes, I'm willfully interested in exchanging XML with you, not otherwise. Now, everybody has used XML here, right? And the day you start using XML, you're like, this is not really that bad, right? You start using it, you play with a little XML, and then what happens? You start a little bit more, and then eventually you get like 3 megs of data in XML. So I have this theory about XML. XML is like humans. It starts out really cute when they are small and becomes really annoying when they become bigger, right? This is like the old uncle you're like, and don't go there to that room, right? Uncle is there. So that's kind of the way it feels, right, about XML. Where do I start? So Maven. I don't know how to start with this. Well, let me show you this tweet, which I think summarizes the fact. Got a new machine and installed Maven on it. Now it's downloading the internet. I was at a client site. We had some work to do, really. It was like 6 p.m. And I told this guy, don't. And he just hit the return key with Maven. And the next thing you know, several hours later, we're still sitting there and waiting. Can we get some work done? No, you got to wait for downloading. So my question to you, well, this is another tweet. What's the difference between Ant and Maven? And the answer was, the creator of Ant has apologized already. Question for you, how many of you use Maven? I'm sorry to tell you, you're wrong. You don't use Maven. We're not done yet. The mother of all messes. Undeniably so, right? So let's give it a try. I can't even imagine where to go from here, but let's try. So I want to say var a equals 1. Well, actually, let's go directly to it. So I want to say 2 plus 2. Does anybody know what 2 plus 2 is? Of course, it's 4. Hey, that's great. Awesome. 2 plus 2 is 4. Let's try it again. 2 plus 2. What should it be? 20. How about saying error? It should corrupt your hard drive, kick you in the butt, whatever it is, right? Why should it be a result? 22? Where did that come from? Okay. What about 2 plus 2? Well, 22, okay. What about 2 plus 2? 22. Now, this kind of gives you a little bit of a confidence, isn't it? You say, okay, cool, I can handle this. What about star? That's a 4. What if I say a star here? How did that become a 4? There is no way to win this battle, isn't it? JavaScript sits there and says, how can I hurt you? And every single time you turn, right? That's what it does. So InfoWorld asked, what was your main goal in developing JavaScript? And Brenna Ike said, the idea was to make something that the web designers, people who may or may not have much programming training, he never meant for anybody to use this. And then it kind of went crazy, right? Did anybody ever imagine this? If he only knew that people will actually use it, he would have done a better job, right? So it's not meant to be used, poor thing. Well, okay, we still are not done. There's one more. And then there is Java doesn't have pointers, right? Then why am I getting a null pointer exception? It makes you wonder, right? Absolutely. This is from my good friend Brian Sletton. Poor guy. This is an error from HBO. Error. Java lang null pointer exception. This is what happens to your TV set. How terrible that is. Well, so the question is, who created this? Well, this is actually Tony Hoare. He is known to be the person who created wonderful, wonderful things like Quicksort. And a person I have the deepest respect for, and in fact, one of the reasons I have the deepest respect for is he has the courage to say what he says here. I call it, he created null pointer. He says, I call it my billion-dollar mistake. It was an invention of null reference in 1965. At that time, I was designing the first comprehensive type system for references in object-oriented language ALGOL. My goal was to ensure that all the use of references should be absolutely safe with checking performed automatically by the compiler. And he goes on to say how terrible this mistake was. So let's ask the question. What do I do? What would I want to do if I ever find the time machine? So I started thinking, what would I do if I found the time machine? And I got thinking, and I got some inspiration from this really great person. Teddy Roosevelt did some wonderful things, considered to be among the good presidents. And I'm going to read out what he wrote, and I think that applies. It was a good laugh, wasn't it? We can definitely laugh at these things, but there's something we should never forget while we laugh at these things. And it's important for us to remember this. And his wonderful speech called The Man in the Arena. I'm going to read this for you. And he says, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error or shortcomings. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement? And who at the worst, if he fails, while daring greatly? So if you really think about this, wonderful words, because there is no effort without error and shortcomings. This is what we have learned in our field, isn't it? We got here not because humans are perfect. We got here because select humans were very passionate and they worked really hard. And I want to emphasize the hard work, because I truly believe a lot of us have the talent. But the talent is a gift that comes wrapped in hard work. And we can never see it if we don't work hard. And these people did, really hard. So go make the efforts along with those errors, so someone in the future could talk about what you did. Thank you.